guys, welcome back to Rebuilding Fulham, episode 7. Now then, look at that league table. 10th. I think this is probably the highest position that we've held all season, apart from possibly before any games were played. I think we were like 8th maybe on alphabetical order. So if we can beat 8th, then good, we're getting somewhere. But at the moment, as you can see, we are only 3 points off the playoffs. And now I'm going to explain to you how we got to that point. I think we were 14th at the start of the last episode, or it may have been even lower. But we certainly didn't have we had an okay month. This month, however, things have been going much, much better. Now then, let's have a little look-see, shall we? At the fixtures. Right, I think we got to... Yes, we had Birmingham City on the first day of the month. Which I believe was when we actually did the last video, but we didn't play the game. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this game in a minute, but just hold on. First, we're going to talk about Birmingham City. Far more exciting game, don't you think? Right, okay, so, game was 2-2 in the end, at home. I kind of hoped that we'd be able to get something a bit more than a draw from this one. I apologise, it's taken a little bit of time to load today for some reason. Right, here we go, should be fine from now on. Lee Novak basically scored 2 penalties, as far as I think it was 2 penalties. Or he certainly scored... No, I remember... Actually, I think the first one is a penalty. The second one was just a stand-up goal, but it was bad defending for the second one. I thought we'd done it because we went behind at home and I was doom and gloom, but we really did power on the pressure from them, really dominate the possession. Lots of shots on target. Only scored 2 goals, but as you can see, Thomas Drager, once again, getting a goal. And Ross McCormack, too. Pretty poor attendance, actually, for a home game. I suppose it was New Year's Day on a Wednesday. But even so, it was a point, and it kept our little unbeaten run that we'd had. Just, 1, 2, 3, 4, it put us on a 4-game unbeaten run. As you can see, that's continued for quite a while. Next up, Arsenal, FA Cup. I have no idea how we did this. I looked at some of the scouting stuff to do with Arsenal, and I was going to set up and just try and park the bus and see if we could nick a replay or something. But in the end, I just decided to go for it and try to all-out attack them and use our standard system, if anything, boosting that and going more offensive than usual. And, as you can see, they dominate the possession, had the exact same number of shots and shots on target, and even the same number of fouls. But somehow we scored 3 goals in that time. Ross McCormack, Brian Rees, and Patrick Roberts. He's going to be a great player, but I've just kept trying him out because at the moment, Roddy Jaeger just wasn't cutting it, although he did actually play this game. I think it's because we had to play Patrick Roberts out on the left in this game instead of the right. The great thing about him is he can play all across that central midfield, as well as attacking midfield, left and right, and left and right midfield. He's going to be a very, very versatile player for us when he's better at playing those roles. At the moment, he's sort of a one-star player, but his skills certainly lead him to be a better player than that, so he's very useful, especially when there's injuries like there was for this game. I believe that Chihi was out. What a surprise. Adil Chihi injured. Jesus. We were expected to get to the 5th round of the FA Cup this year, so for me, beating Arsenal in the 3rd round was just a dream come true. And as you can see, just looking a little bit further down, we drew Oxford United in the 4th round rather, and that for me was like saying, yep, we are going to get to the 5th round, achieve our objective, and that was key for us. Next up, we were away at Bolton rather, and this was a huge one for me. Like, I genuinely did not expect to get anything from this game. We set up to just try and frustrate them, basically. Chihi was back for this game. We do have Brian Rees still popping around. He's doing a good job. Pretty much at full strength at the moment. There's a couple of little niggly injuries here and there, but most of the time our front lineup is very, very strong, and it seems to be that since Brian Ruiz has come back, our form has dramatically improved in those games. In fact, I believe apart from the first one, we were unbeaten since he's come back, and he wasn't fully fit for that first one. As you can see here, he scored a perfectly decent goal on 70 minutes and then a nice penalty on 63. Bolton also missed a penalty late on in that game through Dean Moxey, but even so, I don't think they were really deserved of it, although they did have quite a few shots on target, but they were quite close range. Well, they weren't that close range. Kurali was able to save them all relatively easily, and he's actually done quite a decent job, Kurali, lately, keeping a few clean sheets, which is nice to see, and has actually massively boosted his average rating. I believe he's now above a 7, which, although might not sound that great, for us lately, that is a very good result. Next up, we had an away game at Leeds, and Leeds are actually doing quite well this season, as you'll see in a minute. But we weren't able to get anything from the game. We did, I thought we were going to. When Angefredi Plumain scored on the 11th minute, that was a great goal, actually, just coming in at the back post with a long-range effort. off of a poorly hit cross. But Jason Pearce managed to equalise in the second half for us, for Leeds rather, and put us to bed. But as you look at the shots, Leeds were relatively on top in terms of shooting. We were going to try and smash and grab the game. Unfortunately, we did the smash, but the grab kind of just fell short in the end. We did have a few rotations for this game. As you can see, we tried out, obviously Plumane, which worked as he scored the goal. Eisfeld also played, as well as Marcelo Trotter up front. I've given him a few goes. He scored on his first game for us earlier in the season, but since then he's not really hit the ground running as much as I would have liked. But McCormack was knackered by this point, so we needed to give him a rest. Which is why we did. And I think maybe the reason that we didn't win this one was because we had so many rotations. Ruiz and McCormack both out for this game. Not injured, but just so poor on conditioning that we couldn't keep playing them. This game came very quickly after the previous one. Plus, we've had a lot of midweek games. As you can see, the Birmingham game was a Wednesday, then a Saturday, then a Tuesday, then a Saturday. Thankfully, before the Cardiff game away, and this is a stretch of 3 away games, we had a week's break, which I think might have been the key for us, because we were able to get Brian Ruiz back. Not so much Ross McCormack. I believe he picked up a training injury this week, and unfortunately we had to put Marcelo Trotter. I say unfortunately. As you can see, he scored 2 goals in the first 20 minutes to give us a really good start, although Craig Noon had equalised in between those two. And as you can see, Freddie Plumane, once again, popping up with a goal. And we deserved this one. 19 shots, 10 on target. Although we may not have dominated possession, which is kind of what I like to do, I think we started off trying to dominate possession, but when we got ourselves to a point of being 2 up, I just decided to just let them have the ball for a bit, because they weren't doing anything with it when they did get it, and I was quite happy to sit back and defend a 2-goal lead. Obviously, we did then have to change our tactics a little bit when they came back into the game, but it didn't make much difference to us in the end. Once Plumane put us 3-1 up, I was content to chill on the lead, basically. Of course, Anthony Pilkington's goal did make things a little bit more dicey in the last 7 minutes, but it wasn't going to give us any real nightmares. As you can see, we do have... No, he's not in the team yet, but we will talk about the new signings at the end of the episode, because we do have 2 new guys who I think have actually done a pretty decent job so far after coming in. We will talk about those in a sec, though. Rotherham at home. This one, very, very happy. I feel that over the last few weeks, we've been getting good results against decent teams away from home and keeping ourselves unbeaten, and the win against Arsenal was great. I was hoping that eventually we'd give someone an absolute battering, and Rotherham were the unlucky winners of that lottery. Most of it came in the second half. Like Ruiz, his penalty, we do seem to be winning quite a few penalties this season, which is good. Gave us the lead early on, and we never looked back. We didn't have a huge number of shots in comparison to some of the other games we've had, but we put them away. 7 shots on target, 5 goals, and dominated the possession in the game too. We got a few bookings in this one. It was quite a feisty game, if I remember, especially in the second half. But Rodiega managed to get us a goal. Daniele Capelli, the wonderfully named man, also got us another goal. McDonald Mariga with a great long-range strike, I think, because he tends to sit quite a bit, and Ruiz added the 5th one with 50 minutes to go, and that was a great result. It kind of just made me feel like, yeah, we can actually catch up to the pack and maybe sneak into a playoff spot, which we really do hope to kick on and try and do now, but we'll have to see how things go. A 5-0 win is great, and it really helped our goal difference after some of the poorer results we've had this season. I believe the 5-1 away at Nottingham Forest, results like that, it's kind of just equalised things for us a little bit. Next up, and you can see there's a lot of games we had in January, so I'm very surprised that we came through in the way that we did. We had Oxford United away in the FA Cup. I wasn't expecting to not win this. They are a League 2 side, and I don't think they're doing that great in League 2 either. So, Rodiega and Brian Ruiz, the heroes for us. We dominated the game. Shots, possession, everything. Just all Fulham. I think one of these was a free kick, actually, as well, because they just couldn't stop fouling us, which is great, because we're starting to work on our set pieces. And I think that's one of the other reasons that we've started to improve in front of goal, is because of the work we've put in on set pieces. I have really had them working on set pieces. I've also started producing set piece tactics to really boost things. And as you can see, Jesper Julsgaard had an absolute belter of a game. I think that's because he put in crosses or free kicks for like 3 of those 4 goals. And as you can see, his 9.0 rating definitely was very much justified. I don't think we made any substitutes in that game. It was a strange one. everything was just going so well. Probably not a great idea, what with how Ruiz ended up being a little bit worse for wear by the time the game had finished. Plus, we did have another game coming up, which was quite more important because it was the local derby against Brentford. Having lost the away game in the derby, I really hoped that we could come and do one against them here, and as you can see from the scoreline, we did it. Brian Ruiz, again, with another pair of goals and another penalty in there. I don't know whether they're diving or whether we're just getting kicked off the park, but as you can see from the 21 fouls that Brentford committed, it's probably the latter of the two. Scott Hogan got a late goal for Brentford, but it wasn't enough. We were great in that game. We really did pull it back and give the fans something to celebrate about, as we really do start to move up the table now. And that is what we're going to show you now, the table. Now, as you see, Blackburn are running away with it, although Forest, if they get a couple of good results from their games in hand, could potentially catch up with them. We, on the other hand, are 9 points off of an automatic place, but they are still having 2 games in hand on us. It's unlikely that we're going to be able to catch up to that, although, 20 games to go, maybe it could be done. 20 games for them, 18 for us. Our best bet is probably 6th place, if we can catch up to Reading. We're only 3 points behind them now. We do still have to play Reading, and that is going to be a massive game. Blackburn, as you can see, have scored a lot of goals, but it's worth noting that Jordan Rhodes here, who has scored a decent amount of goals for them, has been sold to Arsenal. So he won't be able to score those goals for them, though they may reinvest the 9 million, which is what they paid for him, which is not a great deal, because I think he actually moved to Blackburn from Huddersfield originally for about 9 million, so Arsenal seem to have got themselves a hell of a deal there, but that could just be the way the economy works on Football Manager taking over. Our goal difference is a little bit substandard compared to some of the others, apart from Blackpool, who are pulling up trees this season, despite the fact that, as far as I know, they barely have any players. I don't know how that will affect them in the game, but they still seem to be doing amazingly well, unlike Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday and Birmingham, some of the teams we played lately. In fact, we play Sheffield Wednesday today, I believe, or later in the week. So that's going to be a huge game. I don't know if we're at home or away. I'll have to check that. We're actually away. I think that is today, actually. No, it's tomorrow. We're playing Sheffield Wednesday, and we need to win that one because that will really give us a great chance of catching up and getting involved in that playoff chasing pack. Let's have a look, see if we've got any injuries. I think we have a few players out. I'm not entirely sure. We do have a couple of niggling ones. Yeah, right. Roddy Ager, stubbed toe. I think that happened in training. It's not a big deal. This is our new man, as we know, Alexander Gorgon. He has made a few substitute appearances for us, and he has started to look quite good. He's just not quite settled in properly yet. In fact, no, he hasn't made any league appearances for us yet. Oh, I see. Yes, of course. What am I talking about? I'm thinking of the other guy. We actually ended up having to get Alexander Gorgon injured. He picked up an injury in, I think it was his last game for his old club, which is a massive annoyance, just before he signed for Fulham. But hopefully when we get him back, he can really start to fit in a bit. And we need to take a look at the other guy we signed, which is Andrea Lucci. He should already be in the team because I'm pretty sure we used him in our most recent game. No, oh, he was on the bench. Okay, right, here we go. He has been bought mainly to fill this sort of defensive midfield role when we use our sort of backs against the wall tactic. He'll be playing a halfback role, although I am looking at making into a new tactic, possibly for later in the season, or maybe something to practice over the break if we do get promoted, because I'd like to play a system with a regista in, which is something else he can do very, very well. Something that isn't quite as defensive, but can still use that deep lying player as a defensive shield. He's very aggressive and he's very determined, which, as long as he doesn't let that get the better of him, he should be a great player for us. We'll have a little look at the stats now, just to make sure we've got everyone in there, and that always seems to untick itself, which is very irritating. Right, most appearances for us this season. Gabor Kirali has been pretty much a mainstay in goal and now has worked himself up to a 7.04 rating with keeping so many clean sheets lately. Top goal scorer for us, Brian Ruiz. Despite that huge spell on the sidelines with injury, he has now scored 12 goals for us. That is obviously League and Cup, and he has scored a couple in the FA Cup, but still, it's a good response. Thomas Draga, for a midfielder, a decent response as well. Ross McCormack, I'm a little bit disappointed with his return for us. 24 appearances as well and only 6 goals. He has got the most assists from the team, though, with 7. And as you can see, Julesgaard has 6 assists, and the fans were really on his back at the start of the season, but they've started to come around now as he started providing some goals. It's not a huge amount, but at least it's something. Most man of the match also goes to Brian Ruiz. Dan Byrne and Sean Hutchinson have also had a decent number, but Hutchinson hasn't played lately because our first choice centre-back partnership has returned. overall the games, Brian Reese has probably got the best rating of things that we can see, as Trotter's actually only started 2 games and came on as a sub twice, but he has scored 3 goals in that time, so you can't fault that. One of those was a substitute, and obviously one of them was the game he started that we showed earlier in the month, so you could say he's the best player, but in fairness, it probably should go to Ruiz, as he has been much more consistent. Morbietta has also been good, but as you can see, we have got a few more players that are over 7 now, whereas early in the season we were getting nowhere near that. For me, a 6.9 was considered as, yes, best player on the team. And we do have a lot of players performing at that kind of level too. There are a few that aren't performing as well, that have played quite a few games. Adil Chihi, as you can see, 27 appearances for him, 6.62. Probably one of the worst rated players in the team. He even has quite a few assists, so I'm a little bit surprised that he's got such a poor average rating. I think it's because he gets injured and has to be taken off so often. His tackling isn't particularly great, but then he's a left winger, so he's so far up the pitch that usually it does tend to pass him by. But maybe that is a part of his game that he could improve, a bit of tracking back, and we might have to work on that at some point. Now, we've talked about the new signings. One thing I did want to show you is, I don't know if this is actually present in this version of the database, but when I was looking on another database, I noticed that obviously we have Jose Mario Marino. Yes, there he is. Look, he does exist. Brooklyn Beckham. Now, in real life, Brooklyn Beckham is at Fulham. He is training at Fulham. Whether or not he'll be as good as his dad, we have no idea, but he clearly plays in the same kind of positions as his dad did, although not out on the right. Let's see. His free kick taking, though, is 1. Now, David, what are you doing? You think he'd be taking free kicks with his son in the garden? That's like his worst ability. What are you doing? Passing, fine. Flair, he's a very flary player, but why is his free kick taking 1? We're going to have to work on that, and I'm going to have to be having a word with his father about that. He is only 14 years old, so it'll be a long time before we can use him, and I'm not entirely sure whether he actually will get any game time for us, because he's 3.5 stars now, but by the time he's old enough to get involved in any kind of games, hopefully our average squad will have improved to a certain level, and he may not quite cut it, but we'll have to see. You never know. He might well be a player that we can use out on loan. I'm determined to get him involved in some way, just so we can say we had Brooklyn Beckham playing for us, which is a cool thing to be able to say. In the next episode, we'll be coming back in around about March, the middle of March, because I want to talk through the youth intake, which is important because Fulham have a relatively decent youth system, as you can see from our under-18 squad here. There's a lot of decent potential players currently in it, and I'm hoping that we can get a few more in this year, so that hopefully in a few years we won't have to keep relying on transfer fees. We can start building some from the ground up, if you like. So I will see you in the middle of March. If you like what you've seen, hit the like button. If you like it even more, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.